Well, hello and welcome to everyone joining us from Vienna. My name is Anna Patterson, and I'm here joining you from our beautiful building here in the second district of Vienna to give you guys some tips and tricks for your MBA and law application. The agenda today is basically a short presentation on the process, the steps you might have to go through if you're going to apply, plus the application requirements and what kind of support you can expect from us as well when you go through the application. So without further ado, I'd like to also now share my screen. All right, so first of all, the MBA application process is shown up here, and we have a variety of programs that you can apply to. So starting from an MBA in executive MBA or a professional MBA program if you want to specialize in a certain area or a job role. And then we also have the Master of Laws programs. But the specializations in professional MBA range from these in German, healthcare management, and the English specializations seen above. The Master of Law programs I mentioned, however, were all part-time programs, and they basically deal with the crossroads of business and law. So where these overlap is the main focus. Our admission criteria for both of these programs are basically a solid career progression. Your CV should show that you're progressively advancing and gaining responsibility. You should also bring in some management and leadership skills. Sometimes this doesn't have to be necessarily a formal role. You can also have project management responsibility or budgetary responsibility. For our executive MBA programs, however, you do need to have a formal experience in management. And leadership skills are something that we also encourage for all applicants, but they are also part of the MBA and law experience. We also want to make sure you're ready to commit to a very challenging program that's going to be part-time, that you're aware of the structure of the program, let's say. So this is something we talk and find out in our conversation with you. We are looking for people who are able to have great interpersonal skills, great communication skills, and people who have ambition and drive. This is kind of like the student criteria that we're looking for. Now, the requirements, of course, are the hard knockout requirements. One has to have an undergraduate degree, a bachelor's or a magister, and a certain year of work experience. This is 3 years for our professional MBA and law programs, 5 years for our executive MBA programs. And you have to have proficiency in written and spoken English, of course, as these programs, the ones that are in English, need to be good enough for you to communicate in this language. And the same goes for our programs in German. Here we're looking for proficiency in German. And finally, you have to complete an admissions interview. This is now normally done online, and it's also one of our next steps in the process. Some criteria that often come up in my conversations with prospective students are, do I need a GMAT test? Here we say no, we want to make this as easy as possible to go through an application process with us. And we don't require GMAT because GMAT was originally designed basically for people who leave a bachelor's program and right away want to enter a master's program. There's no work experience in between, there was no time. So this is the history sort of why GMAT was originally traditionally required for postgraduate programs. And we also don't require an English certificate because we also realize that learning can take place informally. If you travel a lot through your job, if you've had it perhaps in school, there's no need to make any extra hurdles. So we test this extensively in the personal admission interview that you have. So this is what the admission process looks like. It's a few steps. First of all, there's an online application form. It's pretty much like any data form you might have filled out in the past online. You plug in your data in different fields, You're led step by step through the application form. It's very smooth. And if you have any hurdles along the way, of course, there's a team supporting you out there. Who is this team, you might ask? Well, this starts with the program manager. So when you go in the application form, the first thing you're selecting is for which program you're applying to, and if it's in your case, for which scholarship you're applying to. And right away, the starting of your application notifies the responsible program manager. You can expect to get an email after that with different links to the certain formulas that you have to fill out online. And if you have any IT issues that might come up in this process, we're there to support you. So look out for that first email with the links and get in touch with us if it hasn't arrived or if any other questions come up. And the next step is basically you send documents to the business school. And these are all listed in the email as well, and I'll go through them in just a second. The third step is an admissions interview. For our professional MBA and our executive MBA programs, you can expect also to get a case study at the admissions interview. For a professional master program in social management, social innovation and management, you can expect to also be writing and talking about your study project that you plan to do during the program. And you're presenting the study project at the admission interview. And the final step is an admissions decision. So the program manager, together with the jury, is going to look at your hard facts that you've submitted, compare it with your performance in the interview, and then make a decision on, are you admitted to the program, waitlisted, or perhaps asked to send in a certain document that might support your application. Perhaps if your English skills aren't convincing the jury well enough, they would ask you to take an English class and that would be a requirement for your admission. So now let's move into more detail. The application online looks as follows. We have the first form on general information. This is just personal information, where you live, where you your citizenship, your telephone contact information. We ask about your educational background. Again, that bachelor's degree, that first degree is required. We ask you about your career progression. And finally, we ask you to confirm that you accept the terms and conditions if you were to accept a spot here in one of our programs. And you finish your application by submitting it and paying a €200 application fee. The second step are those documents. So I mentioned you'd have to submit an email now to the program manager and attach all these documents, please. So this starts off with your CV, a resume on your history, your letter of motivation, and we have a guideline for that, what we want to see in that motivation, and make it short and sweet as compared to a lengthy story. This will just also be basically your first homework assignment in the MBA, to present yourself, your strengths, and make a case why you would bring an added value to the classroom. We take that really seriously because we're looking to get an enriching classroom environment with a lot of people who are going to be bringing their management and leadership backgrounds into the environment and really adding something to that colleague sitting next to them. So we're looking for unique individuals, we're looking for people with strong backgrounds, and we're looking for different people as well. Did you know actually about only a third of our students to a half of our students study business and then come to our programs, but the other half, or the other 2/3, are from different industries and maybe have a background in engineering or something completely different. So it's really an enriching environment, and we're looking for people with strong communication skills to add to that. We also ask for 2 recommendation letters. So one should be from your direct supervisor and one should be from a person of your choice. Please no direct reports, but someone of your choice. Then a copy of your university diploma is also required. With grade transcripts, we can then see how you performed in your first degree. Please get these translated if they aren't in English or in German. And finally, we've asked everyone to submit a recent photograph, a passport copy, and then make the application fee payment. So if you're applying for a scholarship, this is also a very competitive process. We have basically a limited amount of scholarships, and we want to provide them to people with the most financial need. So how do we decide that? Well, we ask you for your salary slips, and we want to see how much the applicant makes and what other financial burdens he or she might have. And we compare this with the other applicants coming in, and then we can give out different scholarship amounts to the people with greater need. The next step is this admissions interview, and you'll get a lot of information in advance on this from the program manager. They usually check the documents to see if they're complete, and then they would get in touch with you for setting up a date with the academic director of the program, and in most cases, the program manager. And finally, the admissions decisions I mentioned, you can be either admitted to the program, you can be waitlisted. If the certain program is full, then we would reach out to you once we have somebody who might have applied reject their seat. The seat would open and we would get in touch with you. In another case, we would deny admission based on perhaps some formal criteria. Maybe you weren't a good fit this year. Or if you are a future potential, we would say, hey, not this year. Please work on this certain aspect, and would give you feedback in that area. And you would be called a future potential in our lingo, so to say. And what happens after this? Well, basically to secure your spot after a program ends, we would ask you to go through the admissions letter, read all the information, see if everything is clear. If you have any questions, then sign the documents and send them back to the program manager and make that seat confirmation payment. This is a 10% deposit of program fee and basically secures your seat in the program. All right, well, some of you might be wondering how I can apply for the program, what tips and tricks you recommend, and here is also the reason why you're here today. So first of all, we would always say, break up the application into small steps. It doesn't have to be some big overwhelming project. We see the application as something manageable in small steps. You can start it today by just filling out the online form, and you can get the links right away. And you can do perhaps one of these 4 forms every night. We would recommend taking about 20 minutes for the application form and perhaps another 20 to 30 minutes for thinking about that motivational letter and plugging it in. And then taking another 30 minutes to review your application before you click submit. Just do another double check to see if this is really how you want to position yourself in the applications, in your motivational email, and if everything is also correct, what you're entering into the forms. We also find it's more manageable if you make time and set out a clear calendar block for the application, removing any distractions in that time period. So turn off that cell phone, put it on vibrate for the 20 minutes that you plan to fill out the application form. You can also go back to the application sections if you notice something came up and you are distracted and you really have to go attend to this. This is just another tip so that you can save and return to your application at any time. And finally, reach out to us. Reach out to the program manager. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll send my email actually in this chat later on. And if you have any questions, we're here to help you. So we know everyone's busy working. But before today's presentation, I asked some colleagues for tips. And one of my colleagues, Elke, basically came back to me saying, yeah, I mean, she really wrote down this tip saying, make sure you really discuss your intent to participate in an MBA program with your family and also your employer. And if we dig a little deeper, why does she recommend this tip? I mean, it seems a little bit a step further away from just the application process, but this is basically your chance now to brief your family, brief your employer, that you're going to be a little bit more busy coming up at the start of the program than you are right now. So your flexibility is going to still be there, of course. You're going to be doing a lot of the module components in an online setting. You're going to be not always on campus. It's not going to be like your bachelor program, so to say, but you're going to be a little bit more tied down. Your calendar is going to be fuller. So she recommends briefing them in advance so you just manage their expectations of you. You can also even get the schedule for the program in advance so you can share this with everyone. Another colleague I talked to actually had another tip about the admissions interview. And he recommends, I mean, just being quite frank and you don't have to be necessarily nervous. This is a chance for you to get to know the team and the academic team behind the program. So he basically says, if you don't know the answer to a question, be honest and move on to the next one. The most important thing, he says, is to convince us that you are confident. And this goes back to the type of people we are looking to have in our programs are people who are certain that with the drive they have, they can really continue such a program to the end. And don't worry, you shouldn't get like a little bit nervous. This program has a great group component. You're going to be sitting with a classroom of around 30 to 45 students who are really motivated and really want to continue the whole journey from day one to graduation. So it's like a team motivating you to do the entire marathon. And what happens at the end of the marathon? Well, yeah, we have a lot of change going on. Our alumni actually submitted their responses to a recent alumni survey. We asked them what happens with the MBA and law programs that you do. And as far as what they're used to getting out of this is career services and career change. In particular, they love the social network that is provided with the program. And it's not going to be Facebook, LinkedIn. It's really a tailor-made program for networking with our alumni community. You can also expect them to take networking to a much higher level than before the program. So somebody once mentioned, yeah, if sitting in the MBA classroom is like 10 years of job changes. It's never possible to meet people from over 30 countries with so much work experience in such a small period of time. It would probably take me about 10 years in a job and in many different jobs to have the same experience. Another service that our alumni really like is the contact they get to executive career partners. We know a lot of people are looking for job changes, and these headhunters are exactly the people who know what type of quality comes out of our business school and where there is a need in a company with this certain skill. And we have everything from career workshops to interview settings like with small meet and greets. And we really promote that exchange between our alumni student body and the executive search partners. So when all this takes place, a lot of change is happening. Over 75% of our alumni have had positive career moves. This is what they got out of it. They either move to a new position or get a new employer. And let me go back, but they also get a higher responsibility. Around half of them and higher earnings come with this change. And 12%, of course, create their own companies. This is also something they're going out there for. And to the next slide, we have just a slide here on scholarships. So I'm throwing this out here, and you can definitely apply until next Wednesday for a scholarship. These are need-based, so again, it's very clear that we're trying to support the people who are flying into Vienna for the modules, perhaps from other countries, or taking the train from other regions, far west. So this is something that you should know, but we're also looking to support all people who want to do the program and need financial aid to close the gap. On the other hand, the early bird bonus is something we do to support people of any kind of financial background who are just basically smart enough to apply early, and there's no extra hurdle to go through, there's no extra letter to write. It's all just about applying before a certain deadline. And this deadline is going to be August 31st for the Global Executive MBA, and the tuition fee is reduced by 5,000 euros just automatically. Well, that wraps up my overview of the application process, from the formula that you fill out, the documents you send in, the admissions interview that you would have, and finally, the decision that you get from our team. I hope it was informative, and I'm really excited to answer any questions you might have now. I would invite you to add them to the chat box, and we can take it from there. So let me know if you have any questions. In the meantime, I'll show you my contact data, and I'm going to type this as well into the chat box. So if you have any questions, you can get in touch with me, and we can take the conversation from there. Great. So we had a question here from one of our listeners, and they asked about when the modules are taking place. So how often do they take place? And it's a great question. We basically have the modules about every 4 to 6 weeks. So I can actually show you this in a concrete way. Let me just share my screen right now. So you can see that on the schedules page, we have the different MBA programs listed and the law programs listed here. And I would recommend checking us out. You can then definitely see, for instance, if I'm going to open up the professional MBA, for instance. It starts in October, and it happens about once a month. So you can see October, November, but then in December there is a break. February, March continues. April is another break. May continues with another module, and June is finally the other module before we have a break in the summer. And this is just the second block. We call it a hybrid track because 3 of these 7 modules are going to be taking place fully online, and you can definitely expect to not move from your seat and save on travel costs, save on vacation days. If you're flying in, you don't have to do that anymore. So why did we do that? Well, we basically did some interviews, some market research with our current student body who had a different version of our hybrid track. It was called the 8-day track. And they told us basically they love coming to Vienna less often, but 8 days in one time frame is just too much. So we broke it down into, we removed it again back to 4 days of classes, right? So you're always Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And now we even made it more condensed. In a hybrid track, there are only synchronous learning days taking place on Friday and Saturday, full days. And the other elements that would normally be on a Thursday and a Sunday are going to be moved to online settings that are not taking place in real time. So this means you can decide the speed of your learning when you want. And yes, there is a certain deadline that you have to do it within, but it makes you a little bit more flexible in deciding when to sit down to do your class. So great question. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, we have another question. Can you tell us more about the structure of exams within the programs? Sure. So exams are basically learning components when you have to really reiterate some knowledge. And this is normally the exception to the rule. So you would have exams in your finance modules. You would have exams in certain modules as well, but normally you're going to be graded in other components that are group work or feedback sessions, reflections on these sessions, and also implementing what you've learned into practice and writing about that, or writing a presentation about that and presenting that. So this is the different sort of component to how we grade you in the program. Great question, though. Yes, somebody asked if there is an e-learning program. So yeah, we definitely have an e-learning program. It's called Moodle. And if you're interested, you can definitely check that out. I'll share my screen again because it's a great, easy question to answer. So on our website, we have this section here for students. And down by student IT support, if you click this, you'll come to our IT page. And here's the section actually called Moodle. So Moodle is about the learning platform. And if you want to really learn about this in detail before applying, definitely go here and you can check it all out, and you can see how Moodle really works, how you access your courses, and how it makes you more flexible in your learning. Great question, though. All right, we had another question. You just showed the application deadlines. Do they refer to the point at which all documents have to be submitted, or to the point at which you have to have filled out the initial form and received the first email that was mentioned? So great question. I'm going to go back actually to an overview, for instance, of our programs. I'll do this here in the footer. So let's say you're applying for our MBA in project management, right? And you look on the screen and you say, okay, the facts here of this program, the deadline is June 30th. This is an insider tip. Honestly, it makes more sense to say apply by June 30th so that you get the ball rolling and you sign that application form, you submit it by June 30th, you fill out the motivation letter, and you get that in to us. If you say, I haven't, had the time to get my grade transcripts translated, it's in process, our program manager is going to be okay with that. She doesn't mind waiting for these processes to take place if you inform us, though. So I would say start the conversation with us on why, okay, maybe those documents aren't going to be in on the deadline day of June 30th, but we see that you're making an effort. So that gives us we'd like to then, of course, extend a hand and support you in your application journey that way. But great question as well, and let me know if you have any other questions on that. While we're on the line, I'll show you the application's website, and we can walk through it basically. This is the starting page. If you're looking to apply, you can either click the MBA and Master of Law application form, or a professional master application form, or if you're interested in the other programs, these are here as well. If you scroll down a little further, there's even more tips. So the IT support is here to, for instance, help you with that one email that you might get and that you're supposed to get. And if you don't get it, please get in touch with us. You can also get in touch with either of these two people. In your case, get in touch with me, and I know exactly how to help you as well. But Alexander David is also my colleague working with MBA and law programs. So the application requirements, we went through these today. I wanted to jump down now to this checklist. I think this is going to be really helpful for you if you're looking to really just do everything in advance. You can check this out here. And let's open the letter of motivation. I can show you how this looks like. So this is basically the document that you would get, and we ask you in about 1 or 2 pages to answer a few questions. What is your ultimate career objectives, and how do you think the program is going to contribute to that? What was the most challenging job-related program you faced, and how did you solve it? This program is going to be a major commitment of your time, so how do you plan to fit the program into your schedule? And next, what do you believe will be your most significant contribution to the program, to the classroom, to your peers? Talk about your experience here, talk about your background, talk about the major strengths that you have compared to somebody else that you're going to be bringing. And of course, if there is anything additional that you think might be relevant for the evaluation of your application, please include it in this letter. And if you're applying for a scholarship, we also ask you to include a strong argument on why you are the best candidate to be granted a scholarship. Please specify the reasons of your financial situation and add that salary statement. So that's a little bit on the letter of motivation. And the other document, for instance, if your letters of recommendations are going to be sent a little bit later from your supervisor or your colleague, just let the program manager know this, and we can make a deadline extension as well for that. The letter of recommendation I will open as well. This is also something they would just fill out. Basically, they're adding their contact detail, how they know you, what is the applicant's greatest strength in their opinion, what distinguishes them from other people. And then they basically evaluate your skills on different levels, your soft skills, right? So they go through this checklist. We try to make it very easy for them and for you. And then they would send this back to you, and you would deliver this to the program manager. Of course, we have the contact data, though, to get in touch with these people when we think there is still some open issues. And that's about it here for the application. You can see the application process is coming in. We have a profile check you can do as well in advance. If you want to get feedback on your profile, which program is a good fit for you, make sure to do this. You can get in touch with me, and I can, or the program manager for that MBA program or law program. Yes, and basically I'll click on the application form just to show you what comes up. And as soon as I do this, this is the first screen. And if I were to fill out all the information now and select the program, Executive MBA Bucharest, and then click here on basically submit, then I would get an email with the links to those 4 forms. Perfect. So that's about it for now. We had another question that came in. So how did COVID affect our last cohort? And how did we mitigate the problems, especially for the international modules? That is a great question. And we want to be very open about it. COVID was definitely a game changer for us. We had to move modules within a weekend online, and we had to refit our classrooms with better IT equipment. Of course, we had cameras and microphones in the classrooms, but they were definitely subpar to what we have now. We have really a state-of-the-art advanced technology that makes it possible for people to join the MBA modules if they are still in their home countries and they're not allowed to travel. So you might be wondering, okay, how did that look in practice? I mean, this is something that I can also show you on our website. We had a lot of reports about how this affected our programs. So let me pull up maybe an interesting article for you. There we go. I wanted to bring this one up. So we recently had an online hybrid graduation. And you can see here, this was last October. And we had students joining live. Okay, so this is our dean, Barbara Stredinger, and also the academic director, Jonas Puck, for the Energy Management MBA, and my colleague, Michael Kainz, from our study support team, who were at the graduation where there was physical presence was allowed. This was last October, but other alumni, the international alumni who were unable to attend, took part online via Zoom. And this is the part where they're swearing their academic oath virtually. I mean, I think both sides grew in this situation. Both sides made through the challenge. And I have to say, yeah, we had both. We had students online and we had students in presence. And the same is true right now. We have our online module happening, actually the floors above me. And we have some students in the class and some students online. And this is how we mitigated the international travel regulations that were a problem for many of our students. And we proposed this solution to make their learning journey continue so that they can graduate on time. Because this was most important for many students, that their MBA is not going to be now extended by another year just because of a pandemic. No, we took our responsibility there very seriously to make your learning journeys possible in the time of a pandemic, especially since a lot of business trips have now been reduced, and people also came to us saying they have more time even for an educational program. And last fall, our application numbers went through the roof. So we have a lot of people taking advantage of the situation now and are really keen on developing. But great question there, and I'm happy to receive any more questions that you might have. In the meantime, I would basically then just remind you that we have a few days before the deadline. Actually, we can count them. There's 5 days left. Get your applications in, start the form. If you really want to do the program, take advantage of the fact that now is summer. You're going to have time to digest the information. You're going to have time to really set up an interview and inform your team, inform your families, and then be prepared for October or November when your educational journey starts. And I would love to continue the conversation. So if you have any questions after this that cross your mind, shoot me an email and I'd be happy to get in touch with you. And at this point, I just wanted to thank our great IT support in the background, Lawrence, for making this event very smooth. And I wanted to welcome all listeners to the weekend and hope to hear from you. Thank you and take care.